Okay, we got a few people watching at this point. This is not going to be a particularly well done little talk here. I just thought I would. I just had some stuff I was thinking about. You know, it's funny after one of these live events. Typically, what happens is for a few hours I'll think about it and then I'll move on to something else. But in this case, I moved on to something else immediately, and then a bunch of people started buzzing me about the Warski appearance, and so they sort of brought it back to my mind. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about sort of just the recurring problem I have that goes back a lot longer than a lot of people here might think, is just how this discrepancy between my presentations, prepared presentations, and live debates. Now, if I made shit presentations and I was shit in live debates, there'd be no mystery there. I mean, there'd be nothing really to talk about. Oh, you're just shit, right? So, but at least I think there is, in my case, this chasm, you know? And this is actually goes back to when I did competitive speech back in the day. I can't say exactly how well I did, because that's doxable information. But I generally did a lot better in prepared presentations than I did in live debate. Doing informatives and orations than I ever did in either extemporaneous. Although I did okay in extemporaneous, but I really tanked when we got into policy debate, which I recommend nobody ever do. But another thing that happened that was really strange with me regarding the policy debate is that I actually did better when I went from JV to varsity. Most people do worse when they go up, but I actually did better. And the reason why, I'm pretty sure, is because the judges started using the flow. I think that's what it's called. I forget what it was called, but basically you have different categories of the topics. You have to write it out. You have to write out topicality, solvency, funding for whatever the debate topic of the year is. So, and I think when I moved up to the varsity debate, you had judges that are like writing down the arguments and like writing down whether or not you hit the argument or not. Whereas for JV policy debate, it's more of like oratorical persuasion in the moment. So I think that's why I got a lot better when I was dealing with quote unquote like not professional judges, but judges who understood quote unquote the rules of policy debate. So I actually did better moving up, whereas most people, typically do worse. So, and so I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about how, like, here's another instance. And when I was on Warski with Styx Hexenhammer, which people thought was like a debate, here's another thing that a lot of people don't know is situational factors in this kind of stuff. When I went on to the show with Styx Hexenhammer, there was no, like, I wasn't told what the topic was going to be beforehand, right? And like people don't, and people just sort of think, oh, Ryan, you should have had all this stuff prepared going in. It's like, well, it's hard to prepare if you literally don't know what the topic's going to be before you go in. Anyway, so, but there was one moment in there when I forget if it was JF who asked or somebody asked, what are, like, why do you want a white ethno state? And I sort of froze up for a moment. And I said, I don't even know where to begin. And now, first off, people sort of misunderstood what I meant by that. I don't even know where to begin, implying there's so many reasons. Where do you even begin? Although JF and I think a lot of the audience took it like, oh, I can't think of a reason at that moment. So, and then, but what also a lot of people forget is that a few seconds later, I started rattling off a bunch of reasons. So, like, I did state several reasons, and then say there's so many I don't even know where to begin. But people, but that's what's just so weird, because in my mind I look at that situation and go, oh, I answered the question. Not right away. I was a little bit deer in the headlights for a moment, but ultimately I answered the question. So why does it matter that I was a deer in the headlights for a moment when I ultimately answered the argument? You know, if we just sort of sit back and think about this like autists, then obviously, I did fine. But I'm starting to realize that that's not good enough. I mean, I guess people are such potatoes that they need that they need more than just answering the argument, which is kind of a pain. And I'm also thinking of how when I was in social groups of people, even back when I would interact with kind of, borderline shitlib peoples, one thing I would notice is that over time, like I would all right, well, this is just me talking into a microphone, so I could just say it like without it like sounding like I'm totally jacking off, or maybe it does sound like I'm jacking off. I don't fucking care. But basically, any group I was in, their views would drift towards me, not the other way around, like never. So for whatever reason, I would have like this kind of long-term persuasion in whatever group I was in, but yet I can't really pinpoint to like the slam dunk argument that I would dunk on people, or like some big BTFO event that caused everyone to become a clone of Ryan, like that it didn't happen like that, but but over time, their views sort of came into line with mine. And how can that be if I'm so shit at live argumentation, or at least relatively shit, we could say. Now, that's another thing that kind of pisses me off about a lot of these armchair generals, because I know with so many of these people, forget the topic. Let's say it's a topic that they're more knowledgeable about, that you'll get steamrolled like worse than me in these events, like most of you would. And I just know that because I've seen it, right? And so all these armchair generals saying I would have done better. No, you almost certainly would have done worse, unless you know otherwise, right? Unless you have experience. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. So this person, the CV, who's I think has now been confirmed it's a male to female, which, like, of course, like something like it must be over 90% is male to female. What female would want to become a male? That's retarded. Anyway, so, but he didn't give any new arguments. Like, there was no argument that he made that I hadn't dealt with before. Okay, if that's the case, then this should have been a cakewalk. I should have come off looking fantastic, since there were no arguments that I had never heard before, right? So why didn't I? Maybe I should read the chat, because this is supposed to be like a chat thing or whatever. I almost never read the chat on like these things that I'm at. Where even is the video? Oh, here it is. YouTube is not designed for live silence. Okay. It isn't what you say, it matters how much you say. All type is a spurg. He can't tell when people disagree. He can't tell. I can't tell. Should debate Lauren Rose. I appreciate the open contemplation. Practice certainly Talmudic. What happened to the regular streams you held? Oh, not enough topics. Also, Sean is doing stuff a lot, and there's nobody else that I feel like I kind of like enough rapport to do like a regular show with. So yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, not enough content, and there's nobody else, so I have enough rapport. Oh, Cedarwood, I think I could do a show with, but schedule conflict, he can't do it. So Sean's increasingly busy. He can't. So he's. We'll do more shows in the future again, but he's doing stuff in real life, so that's why he can't do it. And Sean is a much better live debater than I am. But here's another thing that kind of makes me like one thing people could say is, well, it's a RAM issue. It's a random access memory issue that I'd have bad RAM and a slow CPU or something, and that I can't, I can't recall facts quickly. I mean, even though I've written like a fucking book about a topic, that doesn't necessarily mean you can recall the specific fact in any specific instance, particularly when you go into something with no preparation. And that's another sort of situational factor that I kind of want to bring up here. I went into that debate because, as a favor to someone else, because I did it as a favor. I didn't want to do it. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go into any more details than that. And I wanted to do 2 videos on my main channel because they hadn't done videos in a long time. And I had been working on this World War I video off and on for a while, and I just wanted to get it done. So, and I got it done on Sunday morning. All right. So, and that was when I decided, all right, who's this CV person? Right. So that was about the amount of time I had to prepare for the CV person. And another problem, the CV person doesn't have any content. So there's nothing that I could really go into and like do any sort of op research. So I had no idea what the CV person was going to do. There was one debate that CV had on Halsey's channel and with another person, and it was not on this topic. So there's like almost no op research. Meanwhile, CV, obviously did a ton of op research. So that's so when people say, "Oh, Ryan, you're unprepared," it's like, well, how are you going to prepare for that? Like, I mean, go to the alternativehypothesis.org there and like see all the articles. And it's like, I need to prepare a defense for literally it's insane. Anyway, but that said, like everything I feel, again, this is just sort of my point of view, and it's the same sort of thing that I had with the Styx thing. Is like I feel like I answered everything. I feel like I covered everything, like in the argument with Styx Hexenhammer, which was obviously a much less heated debate, more of a conversation than anything. But I feel like I answered literally every question he had. And then I come away and the audience says that I came off poorly. And so I'm trying to rack my mind around it. And again, like for example, CV had like these objections, but I feel like I answered every single objection. For example, the number of clusters thing. I feel like I answered that. I feel like, yes, the number of clusters, the number of groupings in any taxonomy is going to have a certain level of arbitrariness to it. Are you going to apply this to foxes and wolves? And so I feel like I dealt with that. All right. Another one would be, CV's insane definition of heritability. And I pointed out like that if what you're saying about the definition of heritability is true, then we could just infer heritability from a parent to offspring correlation. Right. If heritability also encompasses environmental factors, which then you could just do a parent offspring correlation. Right. You wouldn't have to do twin studies. So I felt like I dealt with all this stuff. I felt like I answered everything. And yet people are saying, "Oh, alt hype, you looked unprepared. Oh, you came off poorly." But even though I feel like I answered everything, so what? So okay, so I guess I'll read the chat now because I'm sort of asking questions. What exactly? What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Why am I? You don't have the charisma of an Enoch or Fuentes. You didn't do bad. You were just too nice. You need to get your message across better. Exactly. But the thing is, like, I feel like I'm making these points, but they're just not quote unquote taking. Right. Like, I feel like I made I answered the argument, but for some reason it's not conveyed somehow. It somehow doesn't get, like, my arguments don't get processed by the audience, by don't know. You need to be more assertive rather than defensive. That is true. That is true. I recognize that, like, even while I was doing it, that I need to. But the thing is, it's just sort of this mania. Like, someone attacks me and go, "Oh, I know how to answer that. Let me answer this. Oh, I know how to answer that. Let me answer this." And the thing is, ironically enough, if I didn't have as many answers, if I didn't have so many answers to the attacks, I'd probably be more offensive because that would be my only option. So I may have done better if I didn't know as much, because that would have forced me to be more aggressive, and so I would have been more aggressive. Okay, answering everything isn't the objective. Have 3 points. Yeah. Stutters. Talking was a bit poor. However, you do well. Don't sweat it. Stutters. Well, stuttering. That's just me. Also, it's a lot better than it used to be. It used to be a lot worse. Maybe you already do this, but do you take notes? I can't take notes in live debates. It's too fast. Frame the opponents. Keep the. For content, I'm just saying they play better to an audience in their format. That's probably true. What do you think of Murdoch? It's all right. They want an apologist and you're being a catechist. What's a catechist? Did you spell that wrong? Let's see. Catechist. Yes, you spelled that wrong. A teacher of the principles of Christian. So it's a teacher. Okay. So they want a debater. They want to make a debater out of a teacher. Has some super veil vitality. Defending your position for 2 hours unconfidently will always look bad. You're playing a losing game the whole time. Yeah. Yeah. Even though I feel like I did it successfully. Here's one thing I was thinking about. So much of like what CV was saying was like, and this is something that I was thinking, is that as I was arguing with CV, I was thinking the audience probably has no idea about any of this. Right. So, and the thing is, I sort of preface this with like, I'm not a geneticist. That was probably a bad move. Well, not probably. That almost certainly was a bad move. But the problem is, I shouldn't have said that. And the reason I should have said that is because CV's objections were so pig shit retarded that I had an answer for everything CV said anyway. So, I probably should not have said that I'm not a molecular geneticist, because you don't need to be a molecular geneticist to see just how dumb what CV said was. What is the meaning of life? Reproduction. Will you be up to debate Dawson on genetic determinism versus environmental determinism? I guess, but again, I suck at live debates. Your God. No. Well, unless that thing I thought of when I was a little kid, that I'm actually the only thing that exists and everything else around me is just like part of my imagination. If that's the case, then I guess I'm kind of a god. But, you should get JF to give you tips. He is amazing at conveying information and has sharp tactics. Be careful with that, because JF, JF is a mod in like everything he's in, just about. And so, look, I'm not saying that I obviously think JF's a better debater than me. Don't get me wrong, but sort of be careful because he has sort of the bully pulpit in just about everything he goes into, whereas I don't. Um, for example, I can't mute CV. So what I have to do is I have to interrupt CV because if I didn't interrupt CV, CV would just talk forever. Okay, so uh, you just seem timid in your delivery. Content what you say is fine. You can talk complete shite and look convincing if confident, i.e., Hitchens. Your debate style is slower and centered around logical paths, not slamming random facts and narrative down your opponent's throat, which appears to be works best in blood sports. Transsexual Hispanic. I don't know. Well, first off, it's a he, and I don't know if he's Hispanic. Maybe he is. Who knows? Did you lose a debate, or why are you making this stream? Did I lose the debate? I don't think I came off looking worse, we'll say, but I don't think anyone was persuaded in the debate. I don't think any of CV's arguments stuck. But this is just sort of like a much larger problem than this one event. This is something that goes back way further than this. And I used to be a lot worse. Make sure to prepare for the debate beforehand. Yeah, and I didn't for this one. But of course, it's impossible for this. Well, it wouldn't be impossible. I think going forward, what I'm not going to do is have debates with randos because there's an unfair asymmetry there. Because with a rando who has no content, they can do a bunch of like op research on me and find like a bunch of zingers, and I cannot. But you know what? Even that said, even with CV's like research zingers, I was able to answer everything. So that's yeah. So even when that was the case, I ultimately did answer every objection. But so that's not the problem. The problem is, again, sounding unconfident for hours and being on the defensive the whole time. That's the problem. Yeah, I think that's the problem. And I'm thinking about like what are the events where I did, because there were like live debates moments where I did like really, really well according to the audience, not according to like logic and truth. When I say do really, really well, I mean in terms of like how the audience sees it, And those were obviously with Sargon, and with Sargon I just went ham, I was just so I just went. It was just super aggressive going ham. With Destiny, again, it was that was a short event, but I just went ham, less ham on Destiny, but still I just went at him, and that's when I do well. I also perceive, and again, this is just sort of my perception, is that at the very end, is as it got to the middle and toward the end, I started to do better simply because I was attacking, simply because I started demanding things of CV, started to say, you have a political agenda too. And I think I did better there. And, it's offense. When I go on the offense, I do better. And I know this, right? I've known this for a long time. And yet I just have to be reminded of it. Reminded that I have to go on offense, It's called solipsism. Yes. Everybody's came up. Dave isn't truly bitter. He makes statements and backs them up with, I have a doctorate and you're stupid. Oh, he does a bit more than that. But he does that too, but he does more than that. Jeffrey Cameron Bird. He didn't have mute there. I've never seen him mute in a debate he participates in. I have. Make them defend their ridiculous shit instead of being on the defense the whole time. Yeah. Go lift weights and eat lots of eggs. I do lift weights, and I can regularly, and I can curl. I don't bench press, and the reason I can't bench press is because I dislocated my shoulder a long time ago because of rugby. But I'm up to 55s in my curls, so I'm actually able to curl. I figured that's a lot. I don't like eggs that much. Sean did well. Yeah, well, Sean's a better debater than me. Like Sean's like way better. Like Sean's actually like really good. So like Fuentes follows his debate strategy. You can never be on the back foot. Always offense. Yep. Hey, you said you stopped working out years ago. When did I say that? I must have been. I must have referred to specific lifts. I mean, I'm fat. That's what you mean. Use face cam and scowl at them. No, no, my face is not. Uh, I don't know. I don't want to show my face. Frame did a breakout of the Peterson debate and why Peterson didn't connect with the audience. You sound like you know nothing about working out. Okay. This is a particular format you should ask for. Do you think you should start requesting? Live debates are pointless most of the time. Maybe try crafting and keep the argument from deviating from that thesis. Not with you standing, you looking like a meth head in your Minecraft video. Can you do a similar video about World War II that you made about World War One? I can, I could. I probably will eventually, but uh, World War World War II's been done to death. The book Charisma Myth is useful. Practical techniques to build as a skill. JF sucks. The public spaces. JF sucks. He does not. Why are you against genetics or eugenics? Uh, it's complicated. Ape has looked a bit uninformed in his recent live streams. I think it's because he is uninformed. Thoughts on Thinking Ape and Wandering Wojak? I don't have many thoughts on Thinking Ape, and I don't know who Wandering Wojak is. If you received $100,000, how would you use it to advance your political goals? I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I mean, I don't have an answer right here, right away. You BTFO'd everyone. I don't think so. I'll type. I would love to see you do a video about 3 arrows. Uh, anything like in particular that he says? Like I haven't seen a single video of his. I mean, is he like an anarchist kiddo or something, or what? Mr. Clusters, racist political, something wrong about your data. What about Mr. Medicare, aka Jim, the nemesis of the stepfather and his soy soldiers? Yeah. What about it? Donate it to the Afrikaners to come home to Europe. Maybe. Scale of bad to worse, how would you rate this chat? 3 arrows is Jim. I don't think so. Pac-Man made another race IQ video with a geneticist. Did he say anything new? Not 99% chance it's nothing new to me. He's a leftist that debunks far right videos. Oh, he debunks. Am I far right? I don't think of myself far right. Although I don't know. I mean, it depends on how you define far right, I guess. I mean, I used to be basically say, well, aside from my views on race, I'm not particularly quote unquote right wing. Although recently I've become a little bit more socially conservative. It's sort of funny thinking like when I was younger, I would say, what's the deal? I would say, what's the deal with, with like doing drugs and, having promiscuous sex, what's what's the issue with that? And I would say that what's the issue with that is like, why should that be banned? Now I'm like, what's the issue with that? Why should that be allowed? Or like, what's the point of that? So I have a similar sort of wording in response to those things, but now my view on those are totally different. It's like, so what? Like, what's the point? 3 Arrows videos are almost all guilt by association. They aren't very good. Can't debunk the truth. Make a source video about IQ validity. That would be silly. I mean, he is an idiot, so tries to run right-wing people who bring up straw man arguments. Probably do a live hangout with Jim. What would I talk about with Jim? I mean, Jim talks to like nobodies, so he'll talk to me, in all likelihood. But what will we talk about? How much damage do you think homosexuality has done to Western society? You can probably quantify it. It's a lot of confident Holocaust revisionists. Is there enough information to be certain, or are they worth worrying about? I used to be a confident Holocaust revisionist. Then I read some stuff that made me more agnostic at this point. A lot of the basically what I learned is that the conventional arguments that that are given to sort of the sacks of potatoes that constitute the public are bad arguments, but that doesn't mean the Holocaust didn't happen. That's really what it comes. And I don't want to go into it because in terms of like political action, like it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze from that topic because like it's much easier to say, hey, guess what? The people who defeated the Nazis, they had our views. Also, the Nazi views on race were insane. Right? There's no good practical reason to rehabilitate the Hitler regime. So like there's no real practical reason to go into that, even if it was all a farce, even if like the Holocaust totally never happened. Like there's no point because it's like, why do we care so much about this regime in Central Europe in the 1940s in and of itself? Like, no, and it also doesn't do any good to, try to rehabilitate it. Your best showing was like so yes. The Einsatzgruppen were real, yes. How do you feel about traps? It's kind of weird. What is your opinion on pegging? Not a fan. Talk about Jim's political philosophy and Starship Troopers. Pac-Man had Turkheimer on his show. Well, I know of Turkheimer. Yeah. I think my next video is just going to be about the fact that I don't know exactly what the title. One title I have in my head is "Race Creationism Has Political Priors," but that's not. Also, my video views have tanked, and I think it's because after taking a 3-week break has caused my videos to be low in the subscriber feed priority. So people just aren't getting notified. What do you think about Operation Valkyrie? Is that thing? Is that LARPy thing where some guy thinks we're gonna make all of Europe into like something? I think I've seen it. I don't know much about it, but it sounds dumb. Please do more streams with Sean. You guys tend to get in nice convos when it's of topic or not related to current events. God damn it. By the way, what was the Family Guy reference in the debate about? What the fuck was the shit? Either make a really dry joke or really bad analogy you were making. I guess it was a bad analogy. Hey, what's the name of this stream? Why do I suck at live debates? So there you go. What's your central idea for this video? What video? What? There's no central. This is the shit channel. This is where I post shit. Please make more Sonic the Hedgehog videos. Who won E3? Mr. Medicare, I think, has a better answer to that. I think Sony did. What do you think of Patrick Little? I don't know hardly anything about Patrick Little. I've seen like 2 minutes of like a 2-minute clip of him. I think I saw a little clip that was titled like Nick Fuentes destroys Patrick Little, and I watched it and I didn't really agree. But again, that's my conception of what constitutes someone destroying someone else, and it's obviously not the same as that of the average person. So. Baku, are you an oil field? Yeah. More Kirby videos. The thing about those Kirby videos is I'd have to come up with a skit. And for me, it's a lot easier to do a script where I sort of make arguments than to do a skit where I sort of illustrate arguments through prose. Do you think human societies are capable of reconciling the effects of modernity with traditions that were adapted to maintain social health and order? Well, I would say that basically the reason why there's more wars there were more wars in Europe than in the Americas has to do with Europe having all of these legacy traditions that were battling against, changing technology. Whereas in the New World, you had political organizations that were created closer to the point of newer technology. So, and the boundaries between states were defined less ad hocly, and also there's less of a reason for wars. For example, what would be, and I know there have been some wars in South America, but they don't compare at all to Europe. Let's not pretend. I mean, there are basically a few wars centering around Bolivia, a state that tried to break off from Brazil. It just didn't even pale. There were 2 civil wars in Mexico, but nothing compared to what happened in Europe. And I think that just has to do with the political organizations and the delineations of the countries being set up, you know, sort of from the top down, well, closer to modern technology. Are Slavs white? Yes. Nintendo won, said Dark Shadow. Fuentes just repeated the same shit. Nah, we just butt raped Paraguay. Oh yeah, there's the Paraguay wars, whatever. How do you think it would be to start an alt-right polling operation? Shitty, because it would be alt-right. And that not only does that label have to go, but it has to be a lot more than a rebranding. It has to be a substantive change. Would you ever do a video on the Unabomber political philosophy? I don't expect to. I don't expect to. I don't know why I would talk about the Unabomber's political philosophy. Rebrand the alt-right as neo-tribalist. No. Lost all those. Bolivia still has a navy, though, don't they? And there's like a few boats that oh, I think they have a few boats that patrol late. Is it Lake Titicaca or is it Lake? I think it's. I think they like lost their coast, so they kept a navy, and their navy boats patrolled Lake Titicaca. So that sounds. It's funny when you put it that way. I think that's funny. I don't know if anyone else here thinks that's funny. Did you see the Bundlefly stream with Richard Spencer and Frank Games? No. Richard Spencer has blocked me on Twitter, and he's also refused to talk to me on the public space twice. Backed out twice and then blocked me. Should I flee to Montana or stay in the UK and fight? I think the UK is more further gone than the US. Like people look at the white percentage and say the US is more far gone. I don't think so. First off, the US is a bigger country. It's kind of like when people say Russia is only 70% white. You know, like, yeah, that's true. But like a whole bunch of Russia is like east of the Urals. And so yeah, like the whole country's only 70, but like the real Russia, like the Volga, like the civilization on the Volga is like over 90% white. So like real Russia is much wider than the political than the territory that the quote unquote Russian government rules. So why am I talking about Russia when you're talking about should I move to Montana from the UK, and there I am talking about how white Russia is. Why do I suck at live debates? That's why. For example, an effect of modernity being the maladapted nature of humans dealing with limitless food resources. Yeah, I mean, a whole bunch of people have brought up the Mouse Utopia experiment, which is, people have been bringing that up since like 2005, 2006 that I know of, probably well before that. So, I mean, I don't have anything particular to say about that. If you operate a major business, you are automatically J-woke. 5%. Are Romanians white? Their IQs are in the 90s, supposedly. Yeah, supposedly they're in the 90s. But again, like that's taking IQ maybe a little bit literally. Most people suck at live debates. Most people do suck at live debates. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. Problem with Britain is London. Shouldn't move. Fight to your last breath. You see JF stream if you haven't answered already. Is something going on? Is JF streaming right now? I thought he streamed later than this. Would you sacrifice free speech in order to achieve your ethno state? Implying, it depends how much free speech you're talking about. And these kinds of questions, these are like really non-real hypothetical because like, and it's not something I think about much. Like, oh, would you rather have this or this? Like, because I mean, an ethno state is going to increase free speech because white people tend to be pro free speech, and the biggest threat to free speech does not come from white advocates. It comes from communist, anti-white racists. Would you have sex with Faith Goldie? Probably not. Can you do a video about the Mexican-American War? Perhaps. I don't know. I think it's funny that like they have these shit libs who are like opposed to colonial empires, but as soon as you get to the Mexican-American War, then the territorial claims of the Spanish Empire that was then passed on to Mexico are suddenly like totally sacrosanct. It's kind of interesting that they talk about these empires, they're totally illegitimate, but then the boundaries of Mexico, which was basically an administrative region of the Spanish Empire, that's like sacred. Suddenly, it's real stupid. Is imperialism justifiable? I don't know. I don't think like this anymore. Like I used to think like this. But like yeah, I just don't think in these terms. And is something justifiable or not? I'll talk about things being justifiable sort of on a colloquial and especially a personal level, but I don't know. I'm not into, I guess, sort of the philosophical style of that question. Is England savable? Yeah. Should people stop using the phrase racist because it's a leftist narrative? I think that would be ideal, but I think practically speaking, it's better to use the term racist to our ends, and moreover, like and we can more credibly like do it. We can more credibly use it just because the facts are on our side, right? Because they actually do have more like legitimate race hate. Now, one issue they could say is to say, well, I don't believe in biological race differences. That's racism. It's like, well, okay, but they obviously, for example, like the shit libs, like they hate, most white people, right? In a way that I do not, in a way that I do not hate black people. And what's actually kind of interesting about this is that when you're hereditarian, that makes the justification for hate more difficult, right? Because it's like, well, they're they're going to be the way they're going to be because of their genes, like so it's kind of like an antidote to hate if you think about it for like 2 seconds. And most hereditarians are like not frothing at the mouth, whatever. But anyway, JF cucking his audience for Lauren. Okay. I've never heard shit libs even mention the Mexican-American War. My experience differs. How reliable is historian David Irving? I don't know, because I haven't done enough of a deep dive to be able to fact check anything David Irving has said. How much of the criticism is fair versus political? I would assume it's almost all political, just given what he says. Like it's totally predictable what the reaction will be. What is the point of fighting to save the UK? Yeah. JF is shitting on the little Spurgs. His audience is a lot bigger than that. Will you do some write-up on your webpage on gender differences? Normies aren't red-pilled on it typically. Really? Am I that out of touch that like I think that like gender realism is like actually a thing? Like you have to actually do that? It seems ridiculous. Why no super chat option? This channel's not is still under review. You know, so also JF got really lucky because he put his new channel under review for super chats right before they sort of cracked down uh, on the review process for monetization. So he got in like literally like a week before they changed their policy to where they now really review channels before they decide whether or not they're going to allow you to be monetized. So, yeah, that happened. Also, when I do start taking, I'm not gonna say pay me for this. This is crap. This is just me rambling. Um, but would I do have anything that I think is worth money? That was like a result of a few hours of work. That I think deserves payment. Then I'll do Streamlabs. But until then, like nothing. So JF's fine. Stop being gay. He is fine. Yeah. I wasn't trying to shit on JF. I was just saying, just be careful when looking at like a really good debate performance from JF when he's the moderator, right? That's just. But if you're looking at pointing to a debate performance where he's not the moderator and he does really well, then that's then my objection doesn't apply there. Because it was a bad symbol of our movement and it was not good for anything. What are your thoughts on the founding fathers being Freemasons? Don't know much about Freemasons. Hereditarians have less reasons to hate is a bit silly, IMO. I'm sure you realize free will doesn't exist. Yeah, I know. But like that kind of atomic determinism is like whatever. JF even said he is not all right. I think a good analogy would be that, and I guess I'm going to have to couldn't resist hearing Ryan explain to people why he sucks. JF even said he is not alt right. Now, what I would say, now I would sort of, I don't know how much JF would appreciate this, but I would put me and JF in the same category where it would be like JF and I are alt right in the same way that South Korea is part of Korea, you know, like, like I'm alt right in the same way that South Korea is like North Korea. It's like, well, there's some similarities, obviously, but there's just such radical differences, and those differences have to be made explicit, and people have been saying, hey Ryan, why don't you keep this private, and I've kept it private for a long time. Then Sean and I started doing basically the optics cuck stream every stream, even this stream right here, even I'm doing it here. And I'm getting to the point where I can't. I mean, I can't talk to Richard Spencer. I can't. I mean, like people don't realize like how much discussions I've been having and how much I've tried, and the thing is, it just has to be. I don't know, it just has to be organized. Also, it's funny you have a political movement that's all about that. One of the big things they're about is immigration controls, and yet they have no immigration controls over who gets to call themselves alt right. Basically, anyone can just call themselves alt right, and you have to deal with whatever shit they do. Like Cantwell and Baked Alaska come and said we're alt right, and now that's because there's no like official organization or certification system. Now, the same is sort of true with the Republican Party, but that's first off, that's different because it's such a larger scale that one idiot who's a Republican is not going to tarnish everyone else so easily, right? Because it's such a bigger thing. But also, there's an official Republican Party, right? And you can say, well, this guy's not an official Republican; he's just sort of identifies as, and that's good for him. But he's not part of the party in any official capacity. So, and you just need, we need immigration controls, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that Sean and I are uh, are working on, and there's going to be a thing. Oh. Laundry. I'm going to end this hangout. All right. See you guys.